Hey everybody, welcome to the Hamakua Homestead. My name is Tiffany, and on this channel I'm taking you along for the adventures here on the ranch. Today's adventure, we are going to be making pickled coleslaw that we can put up on the pantry shelf. The main inspiration for this particular recipe comes from Constance over at A Good Life Farm. I will go ahead and link her channel down below so you can go check out her and all of her awesome recipes. I believe the only thing I'm going to be altering for today's recipe is I'm going to be adding a little bit of spice to it. But first things first, we got to cut up all of our cabbage, carrots, and our jalapenos. So this is all the reasons that you should go ahead and read your instructions a little more thoroughly before you get started on your project. I realized that this particular recipe calls to put salt in the cabbage just like you would with sauerkraut and leave it for 2 to 4 hours. I didn't do that. I don't have that much time. So we're going to go ahead and add our 6 tablespoons of salt to our cabbage and let it sit for as long as we can while we're actually preparing our other ingredients. I am tripling this recipe, so I have 3 heads of cabbage and 6 tablespoons of salt. Okay, so our cabbage is all shredded up. It has been sitting in salt and creating its own brine, like I said, just like sauerkraut. It has been about an hour and a half and it has a lot of liquid in it, so I think we got the reaction that we needed. I did put the carrots through the food processor too, and the way that I did it I don't think was the right way at all, so we did end up with various sizes of carrots. But I'm not going to worry too much about that. It just had a little bit different texture to our coleslaw. Our jars are sanitized. They have been boiling for 10 minutes. I just turned off the heat, and now we're going to go ahead and strain out our cabbage. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in a colander, drain out the liquid, and rinse off all of the salt water like it says in the recipe. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and let that drain off a bit, get rid of some of that liquid, and we're going to prepare our brine. Now we're going to do 7.5 cups of white distilled vinegar. Sorry, I had to pause there for a second because the recipe calls for 7 cups of granulated sugar, and I was like, what? But then when you go back and look at it, I am tripling the recipe, but still. I'm gonna see if I have 7 cups of sugar. Turned out that I did have 7 cups of sugar. I'm using white organic pure cane sugar. And we're gonna go ahead and let this come up to a boil and boil it for 10 minutes. No, 1 minute. Boil it for 1 minute. Okay, so everything else is all set up and we are ready to go ahead and fill up our jars. They are still hot from being sanitized and we're ready to go. Now that our jars are all filled up, the next step is to go ahead and put in a pinch of celery seed. Now, normally I would probably add salt to this, but there's already plenty of salt in the cabbage. I didn't rinse it out extremely thoroughly. So I know that our jars, they are not filled up to 1/2 inch, not at all. We're gonna have plenty of extra liquid. I ended up with 8 jars. I was expecting 12 out of the volume that we had, but I'm assuming it has something to do with the cabbage itself or something of the sort. But that's okay. We'll go ahead and fill up our jars with our brine. We will go ahead and just fill each one of these up, and then after I'm done, I will debubble them and then make sure that they're still at the 1/2 inch headspace mark that we're looking for. I actually ended up with a lot of extra brine, so I am going to go ahead and can it up, because then I am not wasting all this vinegar and sugar. I can go ahead and use it for a future recipe. I'm doing 1 inch headspace on this because that's what I know to do with liquid. That's it for now. We have our jars all in our canner. We are going to wait for it to come up to a rolling boil, and then we are going to let it set at a rolling boil for a full 15 minutes. One thing I forgot to mention, the recipe does call for pickle crisp, but the store that I went to didn't have it. I looked online, it said it was optional, so we're just gonna go ahead and cross our fingers and hope that our coleslaw turns out crunchy. I'll let you know what it looks like on the other side. All right, so our 15 minutes is up and it's time to take our jars out of the canner. Look at how beautiful this is. All right, so that's all we need to do for right now. I'm gonna go ahead and let these sit on the counter, not directly on the counter, of course, on a thing, overnight, and probably for a full 24 hours or so. And then I'm going to label them and put them on the pantry shelf. And then after that, I'm gonna wait about 2 weeks or more before we give it a try. I've noticed that with a lot of pickled things, it's better to let it sit in its own juices and allow it to pickle before you taste it. So I'll bring you back and show you what it's like in a few weeks. All right, so here we are. It has actually been about 5 weeks since we made our coleslaw. Our pickled coleslaw is looking quite nice, and I'm excited to give it a try. It smells delicious. All right, here we go. It's very sweet. It's sweet and vinegary at the same time. A little bit of jalapeno on there too. It's pretty good. It's not too spicy. It's a little bit sweet for my taste, but I also don't do sugar and sweets and stuff. It's the perfect amount of vinegar. Yeah, that's a winner. I like it a lot. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pop this into the refrigerator and just kind of snack on it and maybe top different things with it, all my random sauerkraut, all those different things that I just kind of put on my plate and it turns into a meal. That's gonna be part of this for sure. But that's definitely a winner. I hope that you guys also give it a try. Don't forget to run over to cosmopolitancornbread.com. That's where you will find the starting recipe of what I used. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Hamakua Homestead. I will see you again soon.